Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about adjusting your BaZi's climate. And this is it's another way to balance your chart, sort of like we did with elements, but it is different. This is focused on balancing your chart in a way that improves your problem-solving skills, and that improves your ability to succeed, to make money and be able to move forward in life, become, get a promotion, get a raise, all that kind of stuff. So it's focused on really your ability to solve problems. It's different than balancing your BaZi. There we're talking about balancing the elements, and this more has to do with your like your overall view of life, or your overall mental state, how easy it is for you to easily deal with problems. I mean, if you have a balanced BaZi, you tend to be able to deal with problems and your emotions and everything in a much more balanced way. So you don't get angry too easily. You, you know, uh, and even when things make you angry, you approach them in a more methodical way. So you don't, it's not all emotions. So this is one way to look at that. But adjusting your BaZi's climate is more precise. So in the balancing your BaZi, you just use an element. Could use the yin or yang version of it. It doesn't matter. Here it's more precise because it's saying you need to use the that particular element's skill set to become a better problem solver. Now, which of the 10 gods that you'll need, and there's sometimes more than one, but which one you need will depend on your day master and the season, which is the month in which you were born. If health is an issue, you use the useful god instead of trying to balance your climate or balance your chart. You use the useful god. So you need to know what you need to fix in your life, what part of your chart do you need to work on. Now, for climate adjustment, it's either going to be adjusted for temperature or it's going to be adjusted for humidity. Typically, it's not both, but one will look like you're doing both. So a BaZi will be classified as cold, warm, or hot. Sometimes people will say hot, damp, or dry. So it's pretty clear that if you have a cold BaZi, you need heat. If you have a warm or hot BaZi, you need something to cool it down. So that's the temperature adjustment. If it's damp, you need something to dry it. And if it's dry, you need some water. It's pretty straightforward. And the seasons themselves also have some general properties which go into automatically adjusting the climate. So sometimes a person born in a certain season automatically has a better overall chart for the climate based on the month they're born for the same day master. The spring months are the tiger, rabbit, and dragon months, and these are the Chinese solar months, not the lunar months, but the solar months. And it's considered well, it starts out as cool and goes to warm or hot, and it is wet. There's usually a fair amount of rain in the spring, for not everywhere, but on the climate as a whole. The summer months are the snake, the horse, and the goat months, and it's usually hot and dry. That's what its climate is. If the autumn months are the monkey, the rooster, and the dog months, and this starts out warm, goes to cool, and it's dry. So that's its general thing. And the winter months are the pig, the rat, and the ox months, and this is cold and wet. So you can pretty much tell what is needed. It's really the hot and the cold that need to have temperature adjustment, and these guys are temperature are roughly okay, so they need the humidity adjustment. Now, just as in the overall balancing of your chart, when they say use a certain element, they actually mean developing and using the skills of people that that already have a high level of that element. They are naturally good at certain things. That that element gives them these skills. You don't use the element as an element. You don't. If it says water, it doesn't mean you need to surround your house with a moat. Uh, it means something else. And a lot of people, even practitioners who don't have a good understanding of Chinese and the Chinese language texts out there, they get this wrong because they don't know any better. And they didn't have a good teacher, usually. Now, generally, picking up a skill that you have either a weak element or it's not an element that is in your chart, it's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be useful. It's meant to make your life better. That means you're going to have to work at it. And of course, a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to have to learn something new. And that's where the problem lies if they're not happy with where they are. So you need to answer these two questions. Are you interested in an easy life, one that you don't have to work and don't have to learn anything new, and you are okay with your current level of success? The answer is yes or no. And if you want an easy life and you're not happy with your current level of success, the answer is no. Just to be clear about that. Or the other alternatives, are you willing to work hard, improve your skills to have a more fulfilling life and more success? This one might be no to begin with and yes second, but the answer then would have to be yes. So they come together. You probably only want half of it, but it's the second part that's the key. The answer is up to you. If you answer yes to this and no to this, and basically that's fine if you're happy with your current life, because you're doing okay in whatever your level of desired life, you're doing okay. If that's true, you can stop watching this video because you don't need the information that I'm going to give you, because this is all about how to improve your life, improve specifically your problem-solving ability. And the more problems you can solve, the more success you generally have. So most of this information comes from a paper. It's really like a journal, almost like a journal article, but it's not from a journal. It seems as though it is a group, or maybe it's an individual, but they go by the name of the Great Tao is Simple. That is my best understanding. This, of course, is translated to English. And according to that, not everybody needs climate adjustment. And I will try to put this in the information about I want to put this link there. So this is a Chinese language text, just so you know it right from the beginning. But I'll try to put this in the description of the video so you can find this and click on it there. You're not going to click on the video because the video is just an image where I am narrating. So it's, of course, not an interactive thing. Now, if you're born in the winter and summer seasons, it says you need a temperature adjustment. The winter, of course, needs fire, it needs some heat, and the winter needs water because water cools. You may think you're adjusting for humidity, but what you're doing is adjusting for temperature. I think everybody knows when it rains, it cools down. It may be stickier, it may feel not so cool, but the actual temperature is reduced because as the rain falls, it continues to evaporate, and that cools the air. It's simple physics. Now, those born in the goat and the dog months need water because these are the months that are dry. And these are two animal signs are the earth animal signs. And those born in the ox and the dragon months, again, two earth animals, they need dryness. So these two need the humidity adjustment. And then it goes on to say that those born in the tiger, rabbit, monkey, or rooster months need no climate adjustment. And because of what follows, I actually had my husband read this, and he is a native Chinese speaker and reader. So he says, yes, this is exactly what it says. However, when you read farther in this, it goes on to give adjustments for the tiger, rabbit, monkey, and rooster months. Those, and for everyday master, it tells you this. So it's self-contradictory, but I think what that means really, not said so well, but that these 4 months, people born in these 4 months tend to have less problems, and maybe they do not need an adjustment, but if they're having problems, he tells you how to adjust it. That seems to be what's going on. But it is a little confusing, and he does have some Chinese spelling errors in here, where he's mixing up the G, the yin earth, with the snake. Now, those two characters are very, very similar. And I think he also has some issue with the dog. There's another character that is, it has a slightly different style stroke in one place, and it means two different things. And so there's a few spelling errors, but it's understandable. You know, it's like a typo. You can understand what it means. So although he does state that those born in the tiger, rabbit, and monkey or rooster months need no climate adjustment, maybe it's not absolutely necessary, maybe that's what he means, they do still have a useful God. And you can still look at the chart balance, the overall elemental balance, that is. But they definitely have a useful God. Those born in the goat or dog months, they definitely have climate adjustment gods. Usually one, sometimes there's some extra auxiliary ones, but it's usually going to be metal and water, and they also have a useful God. And as does the ox and the dragon, but in this case it's wood and fire. Now, these three are all the animals born in the spring or the fall or autumn. And finding the useful God is not easy for these people. And if you happen to fall into any one of those months, I can't tell you what your useful God is. I can tell you which group of elements may be your useful God, but I can't pick out the one. You need a real seasoned practitioner to be able to do this. And they probably won't be cheap because they'll be good. So, you know, but remember, the useful God is about health. If you're not having health problems, you don't necessarily need to know what your useful God is. And in fact, you can experiment because you'll have a few to pick from and see if one makes you feel better. That is usually how you would do it if you don't want to pay to find out what your useful God is. Now, people born in the winter, they have their both their climate adjustment god and useful god is almost always fire. They do have to have some fire in their chart, though. And even if it's only in one place in the hidden stem, that's good enough. People born in the summer have both their climate adjustment god and their useful god as water. Again, they must have a little bit of water, at least one little bit of water somewhere in their chart to have water as their useful god. And if they don't, if the winter-born person has no fire or the summer-born person has no water, you're back to having to get probably a master to look at your chart, because this is fairly rare and it's very hard then to determine what it is. And so, again, remember, useful God is about health. Here, when it comes to climate adjustment, they usually give you an alternative if there's an issue where you don't have something that you really need that's missing. They often give you a different way to get to it. So it's not quite as bad as the useful God, because of course, to me, health is one of the most primary things, because if you don't have health, it's very hard to succeed. So that's why useful gods are very important if you're not healthy. But if you're healthy, don't worry about it. You can concentrate on being good, which is what this video was mostly about. Now, the elements, the animal signs have elements associated with them, and they're based on the 24 mountains. And then the 4 earth animals come in, and they come in on basically in the positions where we have the non-element, non-animal sign. There's 4 of them, and that finishes everything. So what we have here is, in the springtime, the tiger and the rabbit, which are wood animals, they are cold and wet wood, or warm and wet wood. So this, is warming up. Whereas the dragon is warm and wet earth. So these are the wet wood, this will be wet earth. The summer, it's dry, so every one of these is dry. The horse and the snake are associated with fire, and so it's dry fire. And it's either warm or hot. And the goat is hot and dry earth. And so this tells you something. This is why the dragon and the goat, the ox and the dog are treated a bit differently, because it's a different element. And so in autumn, metal is the strong one. So, and the monkey and the rooster are metal. And so this is why it's hot or warm and dry metal. But the dog is warm and dry earth. And the winter months, they are cold and wet, either water or earth, where the pig and the rat, they have water as their element. So this actually tells you exactly what needs to change. So in the spring and the autumn, these are humidity adjustments, because they're basically within a okay temperature range. So here we tend to adjust the humidity, and in the summer and the winter, we adjust the temperature. So there, in this article that I quoted earlier, the one that I'm primarily using, there is usually a main climate adjustment element that is one of the 10 gods, and often there are also supporting adjustment elements. Sometimes they are supporting the main climate, sometimes they're adjusting, also having some effect on the daymaster. So it can be either one. So, and what this article that I'm using agrees fairly well with other stuff that's out there, but it's not like this is the one set in stone and the one that's absolutely correct. But in general, it's correct, and it's at least on the right path. Now, the adjustment for each daymaster, again, will depend on the month of birth. So for the same daymaster, depending what month you were born, you may have very different recommendations. So this is why you have to learn this, or have to know exactly what to do for your particular situation. Just as in using your useful God or balancing your BaZi, using an element is learning, expanding, practicing the skills that given element naturally exhibits. This is not easy for most people, but this is how to improve your life. And if you don't work at this, your life is very unlikely to improve. You might get lucky, that's always possible. But relying on luck usually makes you old and poor because luck is fairly hard to come by. So, what do we mean by the skills? So, wood, if it says you need wood as either a useful God or as a balancing, well, actually, a useful God, it's more specific, and you can watch the video about that. But if we're talking about balancing your BaZi or using climate adjustment, we're talking about growth. That is learning, becoming better at something, expanding your knowledge base, expanding your skills in general. And if it's the Yang version, it's a little more dedicated, it's a little bit narrower focused, but it's still learning more and understanding more and being able to approach a problem in a different way. It's just a little bit more restricted than the Yin. The Yin version is more flexible. They tend to have a broader spectrum of interests, whereas the Yang tends to be a little bit more restricted. So, for example, a Yang wood daymaster or someone strong in Yang wood may just be interested in one thing, let's say science. Whereas a Yin wood person could be interested in science and metaphysics and art and language, and they have a very broad spectrum of interest compared to the Yang. But it's all about learning and growing, becoming better, learning more, understanding more. That's what wood is all about. When it comes to fire, it's about passion and energy too. The Yang is more energetic. So they tend to be people who are quite physically active because they have a lot of energy and it feels good to get the energy out so they can concentrate better on something else once they have, worked out and, gotten rid of some of the excess energy. And they usually are quite passionate people. They have some real interests, and they do tend to be a little bit more restricted because, they have this interest, and the rest of it, yeah, they'll work on it, but it's not a big deal. They really do have a passion. The Yin is more transformational. So this is the idea of, okay, they still have a lot of energy. What they want to do, however, is not just work out or play games. They may be someone who like builds a house or builds furniture. They take the raw materials of wood and they create something out of it. So they transform things. So they still want to do things. They have the energy to want to do things, but they don't just want to exercise. They want something real to come out of their efforts. Something that can actually be used. So it is a different type of viewpoint, but they still both use energy and they both use passion. For Earth, this is more about stability. And this is probably a bit more problematic in our current time when things are changing so fast. People that have a lot of Earth in their chart tend to be not so comfortable now because things are changing fast and they're just not very comfortable with it. So this is the one that has the most challenges. But sometimes you need some stability. For example, if what you will see later, water is about adaptability. Sometimes they're too adaptable and they need some stability. So the yang version is very stable. This is usually represented by a mountain mostly made of rock that doesn't change. It takes millennia to see changes in a mountain, unless humans have something to do with it, or a volcano. But they're very, very stable. Whereas yin is represented by the soil where we grow plants that feed us and feed animals that feed us. So this is more nurturing. It is still wants stability, but its point of view is different. These people like to help others, whereas these people are just more like, let's just keep the status quo. I'm happy. I help others, yes, but my whole point of living is to feel secure. Whereas these people are trying to help others feel better and feel more secure. So it's a slightly different viewpoint. For metal, it's mostly about focus. Yang tends to be more in depth and smaller in scope, whereas yin is broader and a little less depth. But they can focus. I mean, they look at things a little bit broader and then they pick something to focus on. Whereas yang pretty much zooms in to one place pretty quickly. So it's just slightly different methods of becoming focused. Adaptability is water. Water, it conforms to the container it's in, so it's extremely adaptable. The yang version is a bit more dedicated to change for change's sake, perhaps. And they tend to go more deep into, okay, this needs changing, so let's see how far that can go. Whereas yin is a bit more, it's less depth and broader, just like for metal. It says, yes, all these things can change. Any one of these is better than doing nothing, but maybe we don't zoom in, go really deep, really fast, because a lot of for example, Earth people will have a real problem with this. So it is broader and shallower, but it still is all about looking at various different aspects, accepting a lot of different viewpoints, and they're okay with it, and it doesn't bother them, whereas it would bother someone who has a lot of earth in their chart. Now, as we go through this, you may see there are some combinations of day master and month that the day master strength can come into play. And this is the table, and you've seen this before if you've watched the video I'll talk about in a second. This is actually just from there. So you find out what month you were born, and you find your element, your day master element, and this will tell you what strength it is. So it's pretty straightforward. Now, also the overall chart strength may also come into play. So there, I have the video that talks about day master strength and chart balance, tells you both things in the same video. If you need to understand that, you can watch that. But the BaZi calculator, the free BaZi calculator website, has, I think it will tell you the overall strength. It won't tell you this, but this is an easy table to use. So you'll get that if you do the free BaZi calculator website analysis. Joey Yap doesn't tell you this, but he does in a more general way by looking at your chart. But this is very specific. Now, I am going to be pronouncing these in the Chinese way. I'm not going to be saying yang wood, yin wood, and that gets really old. So you may want to take a screenshot of this So I will have the character written in Chinese, and then you will have this listed here so you know what I'm talking about. And these are pronounced jia, yi, bing, ding, and I'll try to be very careful with those two because they're very close together in pronunciation. Wu, ji, geng, xin, ren, and kui. And I might pronounce it as kui, more of a K sound, which is what I usually hear. But that may be my weirdness of my ears. Or it might actually be more of a Cantonese pronunciation. But either way, it's the only one that sounds even somewhat like that. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just providing you a English language translation of the text from the Great Taoist Simple article that I mentioned quite a bit ago. But I will also tell you what it means in terms of actions. And I have a very specific reason for doing both. I could just go to what does it mean, but I think you miss a real important point if I just do that. I want to make it clear that when the Chinese text says use an element, it means perform certain actions or gain certain skills. This idea, use an element, is a type of code. That's like saying if you say, I am a Yang Fire Daymaster. If you tell me that, I know that you're very likely to be very passionate, have quite a bit of energy, you can really get things done, and that you're a go-getter. I mean, that's code. The idea, Fire Day Master, that's code for these properties of a person. And that's exactly what using an element means. It's code for properties of basically that person. And that is a person who has that element. So unless you take a class in Qigong or BaZi, you won't understand this. And of course, I have taken classes in both, especially I just recently finished a BaZi class. And if you don't understand this, and you don't understand Chinese, and you don't understand this whole idea, you see people who are practicing, and that's, I'm air quoting here, BaZi, with the idea that, oh, using an element means actually physically putting that element into your life. That's dead wrong. That's not what it means. Remember, this is code. And so if you hear someone say, oh, you need fire, so wear red, they don't understand this. And this is really, really crucial if you want to improve your life. So someone tells you to wear red as a BaZi practitioner, you pretty much can ignore them, and because they really don't understand this key point. So if you are watching more than one of the day masters, one of the elements, I do both the yin and yang together, then you can go to this time, and it will tell you, it will give you to this slide, and you can just start watching the rest of the information and skip the intro because the intro will be the same. So we start with Jawood. So this represents growth and strength. These are usually represented by large trees. You know, if you have an image, what is Jawood? And this is learning, but also a little bit more rigid than when it comes to looking at different viewpoints. They are a little bit more focused on standard learning and not expanding things so much. But that is good because they usually can do a good job. And this again, remember, this is all about improving your ability to succeed. Now, this is the wood, both the yang and yin version, are the only element that's living. So they both need water to grow. So this is the resources for the yang wood. And so uh, they they have to have some water in their chart to really be successful. Of course, if they're born in the right months, they automatically get water because the whatever water's there gets amplified by the season. And so sometimes they don't need a lot of water. Sometimes they need a lot. Depends on the month they're born. And this applies to all of these guys. Things will change depending on the month, what is recommended. So we start with Ja, born in the tiger month, that needs Bing and Gui. Now, the Bing usually represents the sun. So this is warming up in the springtime. And it needs the Gui to basically allow enough water in the soil for the trees to grow. So now spring wood is already pretty good. It's the strongest that wood will ever be. But overuse of wood creates problems with just learning all the time, growing, but you don't actually apply any of the knowledge. And if you don't apply it, you don't become better at problem solving. You know a lot of stuff, but you never get anything done. And so that's not good. Now, this needs, because this is when things just start to grow, they do need some water and they need some fire. They need some heat. If you're born in the month of the rabbit, however, now wood is like at its peak. You have a very easy time usually learning things, and you have a really great interest in learning things, but again, you get into this condition where you may never get anything done. So instead of helping the wood, we are trying to control the wood because it already has so much help from the season that it's in that we need to trim things away. Now, gung is represented usually as an axe. So we're using axes to kind of trim the trees, maybe take some trees that are, let's say, are dying already, that is, things that aren't very useful. We just chop them down and get rid of them in our life, at least temporarily. And the two earths, this is Wu and this is Ji, these two support, they create metal. So this supports the gung so that the gung can continue to chop out the excess wood, the stuff that is keeping you from being able to apply things and get things done. But you might not have any gung in your chart. And if you don't, then you use fire. You're using Bing and Ding. And this is basically you're reducing the wood by more or less burning it. So that will weaken the wood. This is all about keeping the wood from just making you want to learn new things and you don't care about actually getting anything done. This is why we're tamping down on this, because wood is already so strong in spring. So this is the idea. You're balancing it. You're keeping from anything becoming too excessive, too much of any one thing. So it is a bit like balancing your chart for the elements too. Now, if you're born in the dragon month, it is very similar. It's a little bit more restricted. You're going to chop out the excessive stuff with the gung, and you're going to burn some wood with the ding to reduce it. Now, if you don't have any gung, which is the stronger of the two controlling ones, you're going to use run, the yang water, to control the wood. Run is represented by the ocean or a large lake. We know trees don't grow in lakes. They can grow in swamps, which may have a lot of water, like a mangrove swamp, but those are very special trees, and if the water gets too high or too low, the trees can die. So this is this is somewhere in between. And and mangrove trees are very unusual. But you might be a mangrove tree, you know, as a uh, as a Ja day master. But they're not real common. But you're still not going to grow in the ocean or in a lake because the lake is too deep. Now, if you remember, at the beginning I said the 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 uh, the great Tao is simple. That team or individual says that the tiger, rabbit, monkey, and rooster don't need any climate adjustment. So I'm graying this out, and I'm going to continue to gray it out for the rest of the videos. And this means that this might not be applicable. You're less likely to need a climate adjustment, but if you're having problems, this is what you would do. So, and this doesn't change. The dragon still needs, it is claimed this dragon still needs this. So now when it comes to the Ja, born in um, the tiger month, this is translated into what does this mean? What are you supposed to do? So this goes from the code to regular English and recommendations that really are clear. So what you need, if you have this situation, you need to find a passion. And you need to nurture that passion. And so that usually means you need some adaptability to understand how to use your knowledge for your passion. And that will help the passion grow, and that will make you be able to apply your knowledge to solving problems. And that is how you can succeed. Remember, that's what this is about. When you adjust your climate, you're trying to become a better problem solver. And that is what you need to do if you have this combination. If you have the rabbit, here you really have to work much harder at focusing your efforts into something. You have a lot, you probably already have a lot of knowledge. And it's so broad, it may be hard for you to figure out what to do. So the task is to start chopping out this extra stuff that is irrelevant in terms of information and knowledge so that you can concentrate on the problem at hand. And again, you're going to use passion. If you don't have any focus, if focus is hard for you, instead you use passion and transformation, that is, taking what you know and applying it to something else to solve a problem. And that's if you're missing the focus. Instead, you use passion. And that will allow you to be able to solve problems more easily. Again, this is that whole focus. If you were born in the month of the dragon and you're Ja as a day master, again, it's very much like this, but instead of using passion and transformation, if you're missing the ability to focus, the gung, then you need to control, basically control your desire to learn everything and concentrate more deeply on one aspect. And it is different than just focusing, because focusing means you keep all that information in your head and you just focus on a piece. Here, you actually stop trying to learn a bunch of new stuff. I mean, someone who focuses may still be adding a lot of new stuff that may be extraneous, but you can't do that if you don't have the gung in your chart. So you need to very specifically stop trying to learn anything new for a while and concentrate to understand one thing more deeply. And that can usually make you solve problems because you've got a pretty big base of knowledge. And in that, you're going to find something to help you solve a problem. It just is a slightly different way of what you do when you don't have that ability to focus on just one thing. And that's what, of course, gung represents. Now, we'll go on to the summer months. In summer, fire is the strongest. Now, wood is the resource element for fire. And so these people tend not to have any problem with passion because they use themselves and automatically create passion. But the problem with fire is you become so focused on your passion that you get burned out, you get sick because you're not taking care of yourself, you're not eating well enough, you're not sleeping enough. And so this is the problem with fire. You can become exhausted and you can become ill repeatedly because you are exhausting yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. So that is a significant problem. And as you get older, it becomes worse. So if you're Ja, born in the month of the snake, it's the month, not the year, the month of the snake, usually you need gui, you need water. And that's especially true if you don't have a lot of water in your chart. Now, if water is abundant, and that usually means that if you're looking at the Joey Yap chart, you're looking at the spider web thing, if your water, whatever's labeled with water, is, and this would be your resources for a Yangwood Day Master, it would be above 60%. And the higher it is, the more abundant it is. And if that is the case, you have enough water so you don't need to add any, then you need to do the trimming of the wood again. Cutting it down with the axe, the extra stuff, and burning what you don't need. That's what these two indicate. If you're born in the month of the horse, it's the same thing in terms of the same set of things. And usually you're less, maybe a little bit less likely to have excess water. You might, but if you don't have any water, and that is actually not that unusual, then you need to see whether or not your chart is strong or weak. And this is one of those conditions where you have to worry about the chart strength. If you then have a strong chart, you can't use water because you're missing it. So you need to use gung to chop down the excess information and the excess learning. And you need to start burning, that is, use that information for output. That's what it really means, to use that. Now, if you already have enough metal in your chart, the gung, then you just use the fire. Use that first, and if you need, you may add a little bit of metal, but you probably don't need to. It's usually you just need the fire. You need to use that information to create something. That's, because fire is the output of wood. Now, if you're born in the month of the goat, you will see that all three of these have the exact same thing, but they apply it slightly differently. So for the horse, for the goat, if you're born in the first half of the month, you're going to use the recommendations of the horse. If you're born in the second half, you're going to be using gung and ding instead of gui. So because you don't necessarily need it. What you need to do is trim out the excess and use your knowledge. So what does this mean in English, in taking away the code? For someone born in the month of the snake, who's a Ja, wood daymaster, they need flexibility in your knowledge, because these people often have no trouble with passion. But with passion, sometimes you're not you're not looking enough, you're too focused. And so you need flexibility to expand your knowledge to areas that maybe you're not interested in, but that is going to be key to solving a problem. Now, if you have high levels of resources, which is water for this day master, you use focusing on the essentials and transforming what you do know into action to succeed. That's what this means. So if you're born in the month of the horse, it's very similar, but instead here, if you have a strong chart and you already have high levels of water, if you don't have high levels of water, you use water. If you have high levels of water, then you would be looking at your chart strength to decide what to do. If the chart is strong, then you're going to focus first and then use the knowledge. But otherwise, you have to use the knowledge you already have, and then focus will follow because you will find that a certain aspect or a certain way of doing things helps solve the problem, and then you focus more on that solution or that topic, and then you can make it even better as time goes on because you improve that pathway, and that gives you more output, and which is basically solving problems in this case. So if you were born in the month of the goat, if you're born in the first half of the month, you follow the horse. And if you're born in the second half, you really aren't so worried about water. You need to focus on the essentials and transfer what you already know to solutions so you can solve the problem, and that will improve your chances to succeed. So now we go on to the autumn. The strongest element in autumn is metal, and overuse of metal can lead to missing the big picture. You're too focused. You can't see the big picture or you have a very hard time seeing the big picture if you have a lot of metal in your chart, because that is mostly focus. And broadening your view is the problem. So if you are a Jawood born in the monkey month, you have a lot of things to look at. And this is, again, one of the ones that may not need any adjustment, climate adjustment that is. But if you're having problems, this is what you need to follow. So this is a time, this is autumn, wood can't continue to grow, because if it continues to grow, especially really grow, once the first frost comes, it may kill the tree. So it's time for things to become more dormant for wood. And so you're not growing quite so much, you're more concentrating, adjusting to the climate that you're in, and being able to preserve yourself to get through the hard times, to grow again. That's basically what this is. And of course, metal chops wood. Metal controls wood. So there's a lot of ability, just because of the month you're born in, that you're going to have a lot more things in your life that are controlling you, keep you from growing too much, which actually is not awful for wood, because if you have a lot of wood in your chart and you have a Ja wood day master, you probably would just want to learn all the time and never apply anything. So sometimes this is good. It depends how much wood you have in your chart, whether or not this is really good. But what you're using here is Gung, Ding, and Run. All of these guys control either the spread of the trees, or they use the trees, or literally chop down the trees. So this all is a way of allowing wood to become more controlled. And you can use any one of these to help accomplish the goal of basically preparing the wood to not grow so fast. Now, the assistant is Bing, and this actually helps dry the soil even more, although this is already dry, but this is what would be using to dry the soil, which tells it's time for the trees to stop growing. Again, this is a way to fix this. And the passion, of course, this is passion, so you're using passion to be more focused and not to continue growing all over the place. And the ding is the assistant. Although it's in both places, it is still an assistant, and it will depend on which one you need. So basically, these are your first go-tos. And again, you just pick one. You start that way. You pick one, and if you need more, then you're going to use both of these. Now, if you're born in the month of the rooster and you're Jah wood, then you have just these, which is the fires and the metal. And again, these are ways of stopping the growth of the wood, or at least slowing it down, making the wood become dormant to basically get over some more difficult times for the plant, that is, for the tree. That's the idea. Doesn't mean you are dying, okay? It doesn't mean you are shutting down. You are just being more careful about your growth. That's all. And if you were born in the month of the dog, this one is quite complicated. You can use any one of these. Now, you notice that water has been added, and that's because this is a dry earth, and it's better if there's a little bit of water in the soil, so that if you get a really hard freeze, the water in the soil freezes first before it freezes the water in the roots. That can kill a plant. Usually it's not a tree that will die, but this can be a problem. But again, these are basically all the things, except for we have Jah. We have this being added. Sometimes you need a new way, or you need a bit more knowledge. And so this is the one that you might use that. Now, if earth is abundant, that's when it's most important to use Jah. Now, what does Jah do? Jah is, a tree. Its roots break up hard soil. So that does mean something in real life, and we'll get to that in just a second. But if Jah is already abundant, you have a lot of that in your chart. Again, if you look at the Joey App spiderweb chart, it would be above 60%. Then you need to use something to trim that excessive wood, because it's too much for this to be born in this particular month. It's just not, you're just not in the right situation to just keep growing, because it will be much more detrimental to you. So what this means is basically, if you are Jah wood, born in the month of the monkey, you need to focus on the essentials and trim away the extraneous. And this allows you to adapt to the current situation that you're living in. And so you don't just find knowledge everywhere. It's actually similar to the problem of missing the big picture. You need to focus on the big picture to know what to do to be able to solve a problem. So you use passion and nurturing or transforming what you do know into a solution. So that is how you use this all together. And so it's basically focusing on the big picture to know what more you might need to learn, and being at least somewhat passionate about that at least being passionate about problem solving that particular problem and using what knowledge you have to transform that knowledge to solve the problem. Now, for the rooster, Jawwood, born in the month of the rooster, basically it's the same thing. Um, you trim away the excess. That is basically, instead of learning a whole bunch of new stuff, focus on the big picture, know what you need to fix, and then become passionate about fixing it. Even if it's not truly a passion, become passionate about fixing it, and then transform what you do know to solve the problem. And for the dog, you do continue to gain knowledge. This is usually good, but if you have a lot of knowledge, uh, you don't necessarily need to gain a lot more. However, if the earth in your chart, the earth is high, so that on the Joey Up thing again, it's above 60%, you're going to use knowledge to broaden your view, to break up that hard soil so that you can expand your vision in the right directions. Again, you still have to look at the big picture, but if you already have a lot of wood, you don't need that. You need to focus on the big picture to contain whatever new information you want to get. So it contains your research so that you're not just scattered, you're focused. And that you do still need adaptability to grow, but if you have high levels of yang wood, you're probably going to grow pretty easily anyway. But if you don't, then yes, you still need to be able to be very flexible in the way you look at the problem. So let's go on to the winter months. The winter water is strong. So you, uh, although in the winter months trees don't normally grow, all the resources that the trees need are there. But the condition isn't right temperature wise for them to grow. So basically, we have to deal with that. Now, overuse of water leads to lack of direction, and that is a real problem for the yin and yang wood daymasters, because if they don't have direction, they just learn and expand their knowledge in all kinds of different directions and don't focus on anything. So this is the issue, is that it's very easy for them just to learn, and never focus and never apply anything. And that isn't good. And so we need to correct that problem. So if you're born in your Jawwood, born in the pig month, then you notice that we're going to use ways to trim. We're paring down the extraneous wood. We are also burning some of it, and uh, and also it does tend to shape the what you pare away to be a little bit more refined. That is, it's not just random. It's a little bit more careful. The the Bing adjusts the climate. It warms it up. That is the big thing. This is winter. It needs heat, so it needs fire, and usually it's Bing fire. And if water is abundant, that is in the Joey App chart, it's above 60. You're going to use Wu, which is earth, that is stability, to help the contain the situation and really focus more. Because this is the issue. You've got so much water here. Water is very strong. It's very easy just to learn and never apply. And this makes that less, and it makes it easier for you to focus. And the Jawwood, born in the month of the rat, basically it just needs this top row. It's a little bit different. You are using ding and this fire. Basically, this makes trees useful. This is what wood was used for millennia to heat your house. But the gung will pare away wood you don't need. And again, the bing adjusts the climate. So, and it warms it up. And then finally, we have the Ja, born in the month of the ox. Same thing, basically exactly the same as the rat. The month, the winter months, people born in the winter months usually have, regardless of their day master, from what I've seen, they have a lot more of a stable way to fix things. It basically needs a temperature adjustment, which of course is passion, and that is basically most of what they need. There's a little details and they change, but it's the most consistent of all of them, at least from my limited looking at all this. So let's go to what it really means. What do you need to do? So here you need a passion. That allows you to focus on the important stuff and transform what you do know into solving problems, which of course is how you create success. Now, if your resources are already high in your chart, you seek stability by focusing. Uh, and you do need a little bit of stability because otherwise it's very easy for you just to learn a lot of stuff that you'll never use. And there are people who enjoy doing that. But if you don't use that knowledge to transform your knowledge to solve something, then that's useless knowledge. That is kind of what it's saying. So you're seeking a little bit more stability, a little bit more, and this stability can come in terms of perhaps routine that you learn only during certain hours of a day. You apply, like, let's say 1 hour to learn whatever you want. That is some stability. And so then that tends to make you focus a little better on the things that you really need. Or you could do that with a really good relationship, a very stable relationship. That may help you focus because you now aren't just working for your own ideas or your own good. You also think about another person and you want to do better, so that maybe you guys can take more vacations. And so this gives you a reason to become more focused. So this is what stability means, is find a reason to become more focused. For the Jawwood, born in the month of the rat, you need passion. And that will allow you to transform your useful skills or your knowledge into useful skills, so that, or into useful solutions to problems. And so again, you don't have to be passionate about this particular thing, but you have to have a passion to solve the problem. That is slightly different. This is more like desire to solve a problem. And so you focus on it and you're seeking to solve that problem. And the focus is needed, again, to make sure that what you're focusing on is getting the job done. And the same thing for the ox, exactly the same. So this is all about restricting a little bit of your desire to learn about all kinds of things to a desire to work on finding a solution to the current problem that you have to solve. It's as simple as that. So we'll go on to Yinwood. So this is Yi. It represents growth and flexibility together. This is more flexible. This tends to be having a broader set of interests than Yangwood. But they still need water to grow. And even though water is also flexible, so that makes that even more flexible. So these people are, let's say, maybe a little more likely to be have very many interests, very broad, and sometimes they may even seem to have contradicting interests. But I think most of the people who have this say there's probably something here. Both of these things have something, they have a common base. And that's what you're trying to understand. That may be why someone with Yi as their day master may have interests that seem to make no sense. But what they're looking for is what do they have in common? Because that helps them understand the entire universe better. So it is, let's say it's a big job. So a Yi day master, born in the month of the tiger. Again, wood is already strong, and this is a wood day master. It's just a more softer version. Again, it creates growth without application when it's used to excess. And so spring has this danger. So what we're doing is, in general, we are trying to at least control the learning, the gaining of new knowledge, to focus it better. Now, it's a lot like the yang wood. It does need some fire to warm it up, and that's basically the sun. Uh, you know, this is still pretty early in the spring. There are places that you can't see the ground because there's so much snow at this time. So this is, relatively speaking, the time when you really need the sun to allow things to warm up so that things can begin to grow. But you still need some gui, you need water to allow plants to sprout. Now, if you know plants, there are perennial plants and there are annual plants. Annual plants come from seeds. Perennial plants regrow from the roots that is already in the soil. Mostly the Yi talks about, really talking about perennial plants, plants that don't grow from seeds. They get reborn every spring. So that is more what we're talking about here. So we're not talking about things like wheat, which is always planted from seed, or corn. We're talking about a plant like various types of wild plants that and grasses. Grasses grow from the roots that are already there. So this is more what we're talking about. And that has a slight difference in how you would interpret this. So we're talking about something that doesn't lose its information every year. It grows and continues to grow. Now, so it does need some water in the soil to be able to have the plant start growing again. If there is too much fire in the chart, which of course means passion, you would use water. You definitely need to use water. And this represents rainfall. That's what gui represents. Now, fire could be yin or yang fire. And we're just talking about, in the Joey Yap chart, your output, which is the output of wood. Fire is the output of wood. That would be very high. And so you have a lot of ideas when you have a lot of output, but you have a hard time following through. So you have more flexibility to keep on task. That is, you feel like you're changing things because, output means a lot of different ideas. Well, you keep the same idea, but you apply a lot of different things to it to try to make the idea work. So this is how that works. And so I'm kind of telling you a little bit farther, the real interpretation. But this is what it means. Now, if you're Yi wood, born in the rabbit month, again, it's the same thing. And you still need the sun and water for the plants to grow. So you need both flexibility and passion. That's what it says. And it does also say here that it's best if you have little or no metal present in your chart. If you have metal present in the chart, uh, the, the metal represents like a harvesting tool or something that's going to cut down the plant. The plant is just starting to grow. And so this means not letting the plants grow enough before you try to harvest them. That's what happens if you have too much metal in the chart. And here, little or no metal, well, little would be below 15% in the Joey App chart. So certainly below 30%, but preferably below 15% is more ideal. So it's low enough that it doesn't do anything. Now, if you're Yi wood, born in the month of the dragon, we have the same two, but we add earth. And the earth, here's the thing that you have to be a little careful about. The earth is really only needed as an assistant if you have a monkey, a rat, or another dragon, a separate dragon, somewhere else in that person's chart. If you don't have any one of these, you don't need the Wu, which represents stability. So you are naturally okay with you're not letting everything run away with you. The stability is used to help you focus. So if you don't have those three animal signs, and the dragon, you're going to have one because this is your month. We're talking about another dragon. That's my understanding. But maybe if you do have the dragon, I mean, you definitely need some earth. It probably is true, even there. But of course, you could have a monkey or rat someplace else in the other three pillars. So if you have two of those, definitely you need to be more focused. You need to use some stability somehow to do that. So what does this mean? So we go to the Yi wood in the tiger month. You need a passion. You need to develop a passion to direct your learning. But you have to be quite flexible. You have to have usually a broader range of knowledge to allow you to understand the whole problem better. And this also tends to focus on, one little piece will tell you, okay, this tells me a lot more. So then you start focusing in that area. So it helps you decide on what to learn by having enough flexibility to see all these different paths. And one of these paths will help you understand things better. And that's the one you follow. Now, if output is excessive, and you would see that as fire in the Joey App chart, that is your passion becomes too strong. You need more flexibility so that you have a little bit broader viewpoint, because otherwise you can get stuck. If your passion is really strong, you can get stuck and not find the right solution. So you need that flexibility. So if someone has high output in general, they have a lot of ideas and they jump around from idea to idea and they never get anything done. They may come up with some very good ideas. They may also come up with some very stupid ideas or very useless ideas, but they never stick with it long enough. So again, the flexibility allows you to see different paths to the same output. And that is how you can stick with one thing and get it done. So this tends to be, now when we say output is excessive, we're talking about over 60%. And if it's certainly over 85%, definitely you need this. You need to tamp down on the passion, which output for the wood is fire. And so that's passion. So for a G wood born in the month of the rabbit, you again need passion to direct your learning. Otherwise, you just are very scattered. and you need flexibility so that you can look at I mean, remember, the whole point here is you need to find a solution to the problems you have. The flexibility allows you to see various different ways to look at the problem. And that usually allows you to find a good solution more easily. Now, it's best if your chart has little or no metal. Otherwise, you tend to focus a little too strongly on one aspect and might not be the right aspect. So, and so you're trying to harvest your knowledge too early. And you need to have more knowledge in a slightly more broad spectrum to know what you might be cutting off in terms of understanding by trying to use that knowledge too soon. So you're less focused until you learn enough. And that's a trick. When do you learn enough? That is, you basically, as time goes on, you will know that point. And but if you have a lot of metal, well, metal is weakened by water, and that is if you are a Yi day master, water is your resources. So that means more learning. Same thing. That's how you do it, is you learn more before you try to harvest. Try to actually solve the problem. You have to learn enough. And there will be a point in which that balance occurs. And the more experience you have, the better you will be at that. So, and again, these two might not need, according to one of the very first sentences in the place where I'm translating for you, it says these don't need it, but he is giving, or they, I don't know which it is, are giving a way to adjust the climate, even though it's not supposed to need climate adjustment. That was a little bit disturbing, but I'm hoping that this paper will be revamped because there's some errors in it. But anyway, and I mean errors in the Chinese, just typos. Now, this one, you again need passion to direct your learning, and you need flexibility to understand what you need to learn. So you can't, because passion tends to focus you, but you still need flexibility to understand the problem well enough. And if you have the monkey, rat elsewhere in your chart, and probably the dragon here or the dragon elsewhere, especially another dragon, then you need some stability of some sort. And that will balance the flexibility. And the stability can be either in restricting the amount of time you spend learning new things. It's still good to learn new things because you need that flexibility. But it's very easy if you have one of these other animal signs in your chart to become one of these people that grows without application. So you need some sort of stability to help you focus on the relevant information to solve the problem rather than just a super broad one. But not everybody needs this. Some people are okay without having to worry about this. Some people need it. So you have to look at what you have in your chart. So let's go on to the summer months. Summer, fire is high. Fire is the output for Yi, for either Yi or Ja. It is, and overuse of fire, it can exhaust you, cause illness. So this is something that you have to worry about. Now for the snake, it's pretty easy. A Yi wood born in the snake month just needs flexibility. It needs water to survive. That's basically all it says. For the horse, you have two rules. In the first half of the month, it's just like the snake. In the second half, it's going to be the fire and the water. And so This basically, the idea is this is when plants are starting to mature. You must have a balance between rain and sun so that the plants can mature. If there's too much rain, it's usually too cold for them to mature. If there's too much sun, there's not enough water, so there has to be a balance. And if you're born in the goat month and you're ye wood, then you need the second half. Basically, the second half of the horse applies to you. You use both unless there's an abundance of both metal and water in your chart. Then, if that's true, you only need the fire. And but this one, you need both, regardless. So, what does this mean for the snake? For a ye wood, born in the month of the snake, you need flexibility to adapt to your circumstances. And this is the key to be able to solve problems, to succeed in life. You simply you need the flexibility also to know when maybe you're doing too much. You need to not just focus on one thing. You need a lot of different things in your life in terms of you need some vacation time. You need some family time. Even if you don't have kids yourself, you usually have other family members or you have good friends. You need all those things together. It's not just work. That's basically what it's talking about, is more flexibility in how you live your life so that you don't burn yourself out and get sick, repeatedly sick. Now, this is very similar for the horse, but if you're born in the second half of the month, you have to add some passion, not just flexibility, but you also have to be able to use the passion to help focus that flexibility. So it's not quite so just learning or just adapting. It is having a reason, that's the passion, to do certain things. And for the goat, it is you need both passion and flexibility. That will help you find a road to success because it will help you solve problems. Pretty straightforward. So a ye wood daymaster born in the month of the monkey needs the stuff we've seen a whole bunch of times, but it also needs G. It needs some soil. And the idea here is more likely, okay, if after a whole growing season, the soil tends to become a bit depleted, so it may need replenishing with more nutrients, basically. So this represents fertilizing the soil after a growing season. Now, if you are ye wood, born in the month of the rooster, then you have the same two as we've seen dozens of times, but you also add ding. And ding is transformation, right? So this is transforming what you know into something useful. And that is true if you have the snake, rooster, or ox in your chart. Now you do have the rooster, so if you are going to have at least this one. But if you also have a snake and an ox or another rooster in the chart, this is definitely what you need. That makes it even more important. Now, if you have the dog, if you're a ye wood born in the month of the dog, then it's a little bit different. Here, we're using water and metal. Now, for a yin wood, this yin metal represents a harvesting tool. So I think you can understand what this means. I'm telling you it this way with a little few hints because I want you to start to be able to understand how you go from the Chinese code words to what you need to do in real life, so that when you're reading something else, it will make more sense to you. Because otherwise, some of these things make no sense whatsoever. So for a Yewood Daymaster born in the month of the monkey, we have the same fire and water, which is the sunlight and rainfall that allows plants to grow. But we also add Ji, I'm sorry, which is the yin, um, the yin earth. Now this represents nurturing. This is helping things grow. So you have to be, unlike some other people, you tend to have to nurture the passion. So you have to do something that helps you feel more passionate about whatever you're trying to solve. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're working, that your job has to do with a passion you may have outside your life. It's better if those two can work together, but still you need to have a passion to solve a problem you have at work. You still need that, because if you're not passionate about it, you're not likely to put the effort you need into solving the problem. And then you have a much bigger chance of getting fired because you're not doing your job well enough, and other people will. So you still have to have a passion of what you're doing, or you have to find a job that does more coincide with your passion. Either way is a way to do it, but you have to be flexible enough to know when you can do that. So this is, I mean, I would hope everybody can find a job that they're already passionate about and can apply what knowledge they have to become better at it. That's the ideal world. That doesn't always happen, but that is the ideal world. And your goal, if you're not doing that, is to work at becoming better so that you can find a job that is more in line with a passion you already have. So, but that can be tough. But people do this all the time. In fact, some people create new things and make other people passionate about things that they are passionate about. Now that takes the most work, but it's possible that you can do this. Now for the Ji Daymaster, a Yi Daymaster born in the month of the rooster, instead of using Ji, you're going to use Ding. Now Ding is basically transformation. It takes something, the energy that you have, and you take stuff that you already know and you transform it into a new product, a new solution. This is actually one of the best ones. And of course, you have to be able to look at the big picture, because autumn is very strong in metal, and metal is much more focused. They can easily miss the big picture. So this is why focusing on the big picture is a good portion of this, which isn't really focusing, it's broadening, but you have to understand the big picture here. Now, the Yewood, born in the month of the dog, it uses the flexibility to grow strong. That is, you really learn what you need to learn. And because we're already focusing, because this is metal, but you also need to harvest the knowledge, not simply hold on to it. Sometimes you just want to hold on to the information and not let it out. And so you need some metal for the harvesting, and that's what sin is. That's metal. So now we've come to the last of the yin wood, the yi. If you're born in the month of the pig, you need fire and you need earth, and the yang versions. So this fire, I mean, this is winter. You need heat to keep things from dying, basically. So if you're talking about a perennial plant, if you've ever planted something, if you have a yard and you want to plant something, if you look at a catalog for plants, you will see a zone a zone range of where the plant can grow. So if it's too cold, the plant can't survive the winter. But some plants need a rest period, and if it's too warm, they can't go into dormancy so that they can be renewed the next year, and they slowly die because they need that cycle of growth and rest. And most plants need that. Not all, but most plants do. And even those that can take a climate where it's never below freezing, they still usually have a dormant period. They grow a lot less during a certain period. And it's usually the winter. Or perhaps it's a dry season. It depends on the plant. But this keeps it from becoming too cold that it just kills the plant. And so there is some passion here. Remember, this means passion. And it uses the earth, the rock. It controls so earth is produced by fire. So it keeps the strength of the fire under a certain control that it doesn't maybe want to make the plant grow when it shouldn't be growing. So it is a balancing. Again, it's keeping the fire from being too strong. Because there are places where this isn't that cool yet. It is maybe some plants want to grow again because plants respond to the climate. And this is something where, no, the plant needs to be shutting down. It's really winter. It needs to become dormant. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't learn. But again, winter, the water is already very strong, so it's not hard to learn. In fact, the problem is you can learn too much. You can be so scattered. You learn stuff that's completely useless, that doesn't help you solve any problems, but you might find interesting. It's okay to do that in limited quantities. You just don't want that to be your entire way of dealing with your job. Because remember, this is all about making you better at solving problems, which is usually, well, it's related to all life, but also highly related to becoming successful in a career. So the yewood, born in the month of the rat, they just need some passion, some heat. And this, again, keeps a perennial plant from dying because it's too cold. Same thing is true for a yewood born in the month of the ox. Now, this is my condition here. And so all I need in my life is passion. And I don't know, for whatever reason, well, I think I do know. I have, in my chart, I have quite a bit of water. It's up at 80% on the Joey app spiderweb chart. So I have a lot of resources. And resources help me learn very quickly. And so it's very easy for me to spike my interest. So for some reason, I don't seem to have a problem with this. And as far as I can remember, it was never a problem. I've always had passions in my life. So maybe it's my upbringing too. I don't know. But for some reason, I have this. Now, I don't actually have any Bing in my chart at all. I have zero in my natal chart. I have zero Bing. And that's confirmed by 3 or 4 different analysis that I have zero Bing. But it's not a problem for me, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because my chart elementally is balanced. So it's easy for me to have the right attitude to be able to develop passions. I don't know. I really don't know exactly what is going on. And so this is yet another reason why I'm a little, maybe don't really trust the analysis that comes from BaZi, because it doesn't seem to apply to me very well. Now, it might be because I'm born, I mean, if I look at the Ziwei Doshu, which is another type of birth chart, that is based on the lunar calendar. BaZi is based on the solar calendar. I am one animal sign in the Ziwei Doshu, and I'm a different animal sign in the BaZi. And that might be why things don't quite make sense, because I'm this weird, this one of these few, I think it's like about 3 or 4% of the population will fall into this between periods. And that may be why I don't find BaZi works terribly well to explain me. But I do think it explains some other people. So, what does this actually mean? For a Yiwood Daymaster, you need passion and you need some stability. And again, this can be a relationship stability that makes you want to solve problems, to improve your life so you guys can take more vacations and get closer. Or it could be you limit yourself to a certain amount of the day where you can think about anything and do anything. And, uh, you know, and you don't spend your whole day daydreaming. Maybe that's what it means. Uh, but you need some sort of stability somewhere. But for the other two, the rat and the ox, you basically just need a passion to succeed. So that is pretty simple. So I'd like to thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can either email me or just leave a comment. That's probably a bit easier and may be helpful for others too. And I hope this is useful. I hope this gives you a full idea of how you can improve your life by learning new skills and which skills are the most important for you to learn. Thank you again.